Channel Sports Central, we go over our next team prediction of this offseason, and it's going to be for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, a team that was 3-4 overall in the 2020 season. And this team had quite a high expectation level going into the 2020 season, especially, coming off of a 2019 season, which was one of the best that we've ever seen out of Minnesota as a football team. This team had quite a high expectation level going into the 2020 season, which this team was a bit of a letdown in a few areas last season, but this team has got a tremendous amount of potential going into 2021, and why that is what we're going over here today. This could definitely be Minnesota's season coming up, and we're going to get started with their season trends here today. Looking back at 2020, this team once again was 3-4 overall last year, 1-2 in their first 3 games, and then 2-2 in the last 4. So this team was pretty inconsistent last season. I just don't know what happened with Minnesota last year. This team was returning so much talent from 2019, and 2020 was just a weird season for many reasons, and I think that really affected a ton of teams. Like there are several teams that were definitely impacted by the COVID and everything that happened there, and Minnesota definitely was one of the teams I do think. Tanner Morgan especially. Back in 2019, he was outstanding. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the country in 2019, as he put up 3,200 yards and a 66% completion rate, 30 touchdowns back in 2019. Last season, not even near as good as it was in 2019 for him. He put up 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 57% completion rate in 2020. So Tanner Morgan definitely did not perform even close to the level that he was playing in 2019. So, if Tanner Morgan can return to that level, if he can be healthy, this Minnesota team could be for real. We saw what he did with Minnesota back in 2019. If he can get back to that level again, or even be better, this team could be outstanding next season. As for the wins for Minnesota last year, they beat Illinois 41-14. Big win against Purdue, 34-31. Also beat Nebraska on the road, 24-17. So once again, though, this team only playing 7 games last season. It's kind of hard to tell how Minnesota was last season, but obviously with a 3-4 record, it just was not as good of a season, once again, as many would have hoped for. But I think 2021, this could easily be Minnesota's year once again. This team has got a ton of talent coming back. Tanner Morgan is coming back for yet another season. This will more than likely be his last, unless something happens there. Once again, last season put up 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 57% completion rate. So not very good stats. He's definitely going to improve that going into next season, but now that he's got some good experience in the Big Ten, he could definitely be a quarterback to watch out for. Mohammed Ibrahim is coming back for next season as well. He was a very major impact player in the Big Ten last season, 1,100 yards, 15 touchdowns. I'd argue he was one of the best, if not the best, running back in the Big Ten last season. He put up outstanding stats. He improved a ton over the course of the past couple of seasons, and really, he is definitely a player to watch out for going into next season. His entire career with Minnesota since 2018 has been outstanding, and I think going into 2021, if he can stay healthy, he is a major player to watch out for. He could definitely be one of the best running backs in the nation next season, so he's going to be a huge impact player. Rashad Bateman, you lose him. He was your top receiver last season, put up 472 yards. And, of course, you got Chris Ottman-Bell. He's coming back. He was your second wide receiver. He came up with 430 yards last season. And, of course, Daniel Jackson is also coming back. So, receiving core looks pretty good. Rashad Bateman, that's going to be a tough loss. He's been a huge impact player for Minnesota for the past couple of seasons. So, no doubt that's going to be a tough loss for next season and for Tanner Morgan. But, otherwise, you're returning your second and third wide receivers. And, plus, there's a plenty amount of depth in that position, so you should be just fine there. As for the offensive line, you lose 2 on there, 1 defensive lineman, 2 in the secondary as well. So defensively, you lose 3 starters. This team is looking great in the returning production category once again, and that's a big thing for Minnesota. And for Minnesota, this team already had a ton of returning production from 2019 to 2020. So you may say, oh, why does the returning production make me think that this team is going to be outstanding next season? And let me just say, if Tanner Morgan can get back to that level that he was playing in 2019, which I definitely think is possible, by the way. 2020 was once again just an odd season for many reasons and for many players and many teams. I think for Minnesota and this team, Tanner Morgan can get right back to that position once again next year. And if he can do so, Minnesota is a team to really watch out for in the Big Ten, especially. This team, you got Wisconsin, of course, as your main competitor in the Big Ten West. There is a good chance that Minnesota does beat out Wisconsin next season in that Big Ten West division. You just got to really win each game, and you cannot take any bad losses next season. This team will be successful, though, if Tanner Morgan plays well. I can almost guarantee you that. Running back core looks outstanding already with Mohammed Ibrahim, and this team in general is looking outstanding in the receiving core. just all around, Minnesota, this is a team that just has all of the keys to a successful season coming up here in 2021. Chances of winning the Big Ten West, I'd say, are pretty high for this team. I mean, Minnesota was just so close to doing it back in 2019, and it makes me feel for them. I mean, back in 2019 when you lost to Wisconsin, of course, and you were just a few points away from winning that Big Ten West division. And this team, I definitely think, is going to be right back in that same position next season. You got to beat Wisconsin, and you got to beat all of your Big Ten West opponents, especially. I mean, of course, you got Iowa, of course, who is also going to be a tough team next season. So, be it for Minnesota, this team is definitely a dark horse in the Big Ten. Not many people are talking about them, but I think Minnesota for sure could be a major contender in the Big Ten next season. As for your schedule, of course, you got a somewhat tough schedule. I mean, the non-conference games aren't terrible. Miami, Ohio, Bowling Green are both going to be pretty terrible next year. Colorado, that could be a very interesting matchup on the road. I'm looking forward to that one quite a bit. Colorado next season could be a decent team, so watch out for that one there. But then you got Ohio State to start off the season, so you're starting off the season with a brutal matchup, probably the toughest game of the season for this Minnesota team, and who knows, we may just see a rematch between Minnesota and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Of course, you got Purdue. Then to start off your October, you got Nebraska, Maryland, Northwestern to follow. Illinois, you got them on November 6th. Iowa's on the road. Indiana's on the road. Then Wisconsin to finish out your season. So here's what I'm thinking for your September. Ohio State, that's going to be a loss. I mean, it's going to be close. I think with Minnesota being at home, that could be a very interesting matchup there in Minnesota. But Ohio State's going to get the win. They're too good of a team. Miami, Ohio's going to be a win. I'm not too worried about that one for Minnesota. Miami, Ohio next season, I'm not really expecting much out of them. Colorado, that's going to be a close one. I could see that game going either way, especially with it being in Boulder. But Colorado next season, that is not going to be an easy opponent. Minnesota's going to have to come ready to play in that matchup, but it will be a win for Minnesota in the end. Then you got Bowling Green, probably one of the worst teams in the FBS. That's going to be an easy win as well. So you're going to start off the season 3-1. Not a terrible situation at all if you can start the season 3-1. I mean, 4-0 would be outstanding. I mean, if you can beat Ohio State in that first matchup, that would be insane. But yeah, 3-1 is going to be a record heading into October. Yeah, Purdue then, that's going to be an easy win. Nebraska is going to be a close win. Nebraska, I do think, may stick around in that matchup for a little while. But Minnesota gets the win in the end. Maryland's going to be an easier win. I can see that game also being a close one in the case that Talia Tagovailoa plays very well for Maryland next season. But I'm still going to give the win to Minnesota. Northwestern, that's going to be a road game. That will be a closer one as well. I don't think Northwestern is going to be anywhere near as good in 2021 as they were in 2020. Like Northwestern, it's going to be tough for them to make a bowl game, I think, next season just because of how much they're losing returning production-wise, and for that team as well. I mean, they're having a ton of transfers. So 7-1 will be your record heading into November. So you are well in contention to win the Big Ten West. If you can just win at least 3 of your last 4 games, that will be crucial. If you win all 4 of those November matchups, I almost think it's a guarantee that you win the Big Ten West, especially with a win over Wisconsin. Because if you go 11-1 in the regular season and beat Wisconsin, I mean, that means Wisconsin has to go 12-0, which is impossible for them in order to win the Big Ten West. So as for Illinois, that's going to be a win. Iowa on the road, I want to give Minnesota the win so hard on that one just because of the rivalry matchup, and I think that Minnesota is definitely a capable team of winning that matchup. But I got to give it to Iowa. I think Iowa, I mean, they're just such a great team at home. They've got a great home field advantage. They're a tough team to play on the road at Kinnick Stadium. I think Iowa gets the win, but it's going to be very close. Indiana, I think you got them on the road. That's also going to be a tough one. I mean, Michael Penix, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation next season for Indiana, and I think the Hoosiers do get the win in the end there. So you're going to be with an 8-3 record heading into your Wisconsin matchup. So basically, I mean, winning the Big Ten West is going to be pretty tough if you do lose to both Iowa and Indiana there. But Wisconsin, I'm going to give you the win against Wisconsin. It's going to be very close, but I think with it being at home for Minnesota, I think Minnesota does get the win there against Wisconsin. And I think, I mean, it could easily go either way once again. That's one of those matchups that is basically a coin toss pretty much. But I'm going to give it to Minnesota. 9-3 is going to be your overall record next season. This team, once again, has got a tremendous amount of potential, Tanner Morgan and all. I definitely think this team could go 10-2 for sure. 10-2 is definitely within reason for this team next season, especially if this team can play back to the potential that they had back in 2019, which is once again extremely possible. Like, this team still has several players from the 2019 season. So Minnesota, though, 9-3 is going to be your overall record next season. 10-2, though, once again, is definitely not out of the question. So that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the Golden Gophers. I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments below on this team, record predictions, and all of that down in the comments. I appreciate you guys all watching, though. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I appreciate you guys all watching, and I'll see you guys all later.